Hello, lovely. Welcome to the Find a Lovely Life podcast, a safe place for all self love journeys. I'm your host, Monica Rodriguez, and for the past 7 years, I've been on a mission to learn how to love myself. Healing can be a really lonely journey, especially when you don't know where to start. So let's figure things out, cherish words that guide us, and of course, I'll share some of my lovely life lessons along the way. If you're looking for inspirational stories, conversations with some lovely souls, and a little life advice, I think you found the right place. Or maybe it found you. Let's try our best and find a lovely life together. Hello, lovely. Welcome to episode 7 of the Find a Lovely Life podcast. Today's mic stand is a pink marker. The number 7 always been one of my favorites. It represents self-growth, self-development, spirituality, self-discovery, intuition. In the tarot, it is the Chariot, the driving force of arriving to new destinations. And I was telling this to my friend yesterday. What is time? About time. That lately I have felt that for me, months now feel like years, weeks now feel like months, and days now feel like weeks, with the amount of just personal growth, spiritual growth, the amount that I've been receiving in this year of receiving. And it's sort of like, I think I've talked about it before, just kind of like moving slow but fast at the same time. This month's episode, I wanted to tie around grace. Because sometimes even I feel like, even with that example of like how fast time moves for me, sometimes I feel like I'm not moving fast enough, or I'm not learning what I need to learn fast enough, or I'm repeating cycles or lessons, and wanted to remind you, as I need the reminder as well, that when things happen again, it's not that you have failed or it's not that you have missed something, it's just a reminder. And sometimes it's a reminder to show you how much you've grown. I know this past month has been full of new characters, new experiences, new lessons, especially during this Mercury Retrograde season. I feel like we've gotten a lot of every possible thing that could happen, typically during a Mercury retrograde, which I like to describe as opportunities for checking in with the universe. Of, is this still the direction that you want to go? Is this still what you want? And in those questions come different scenarios and experiences that help you check in with yourself and explore that. And one of the things that I've recently kind of dove into is rediscovering this freedom of art and expression that I used to have without it being tied to success or capitalism, uh, which can be really hard to detach from, especially when your career is sort of now, for me at least, tied to the art that I produce and the art that I inspire others to produce. I think oftentimes we forget that success is very, very subjective, in terms of what that could look like in every season of our life, and every accomplishment. I often say there's no such thing as a finish line because there really isn't. Once you get there, there's some form of dissatisfaction based on this like illusion of what you thought you wanted, and then realize maybe you were asking for bare minimum and want more. So, in that same sort of like self worth aspect, on the blog, I used to do these like 40-day challenges. And I'll drop a link in the description for some of them that I did. There's one particular one that I chose not to write about because I wanted to keep it as like mine. And that was like at the beginning of the pandemic. I wanted to learn more about chakras. And it was sort of my deep dive back in like 2020. Um, right before the pandemic had started. So it didn't like correlate, but it definitely was perfect timing for it in my studies. But I basically, and I'll also put a link to this book in the description as well, as I recommend it to a lot of people that are sort of starting to question or like be curious about chakra energy systems. Obviously, this is episode 7 and it's going to be kind of like spiritual woo woo. So it's the number 7. What did you expect? The book is called Eastern Body, Western Mind, and it is by Anodia Judith. It kind of like breaks down the chakra system as a psychology, as a path to self. And for me, I really, really like to learn different spiritual systems and uh, science and psychology that has to do with the self, because I want to understand myself as much as possible and continue to grow and help others continue to grow and heal as well. And for me, the chakra that has sort of been uh, calling out to me, and like very briefly, just to give like an overview of chakras, if you have not seen, and I'll put this link of this video because I feel like it's the easiest form of access to like describe this. I'm not going to make this whole episode about it, but I think it kind of ties to some of the stuff that's been coming up in my life, and maybe it could resonate with somebody else listening. But in Avatar: The Last Airbender, there's a perfect sort of description of the chakra system, starting with the root chakra, which represents safety and grounding, and then moving in red is the color red, and then moving up to the second chakra, which is the sacral chakra, and it's orange, and it represents creativity and desires and sexual energy. And then the third chakra is the solar plexus chakra, which is yellow, and it represents confidence, self worth, sort of like self empowerment. And those are the first 3 at the bottom that are connected to then the heart, which is like the center of us. We're in green and pink. I never plan these things. Oh my gosh. Also, and the cover of the book is pink and green. What? I don't plan this. Welcome to my life. Okay. The heart chakra. The heart chakra is green and pink because it represents pink for self love, and green also for like health reasons, but also like kind of in a way like self-empowerment and like alchemizing like those 3 bottom chakras into like one, because it's like the energy center that then connects us to the top 3 chakras, which is the throat chakra, which is expression and communication in blue, the third eye chakra, which is kind of like an indigo blue, a little bit darker, which represents sort of like your vision and what you see. And then the crown chakra at the top is your connection to the world beyond, and it's purple. And so making sure that, like, as humans, it's never going to be like a perfect sort of avatar state at all time. And I think it's important to kind of like check in with yourself. And this past sort of like month or so, I've been really calling out the solar plexus, self worth, self confidence chakra, um, and tying that to like my artistic expression and feeling a little bit more, free to connect myself back to forms of art that aren't tied to capitalism. And so I created this piece of art for a community exhibit that was themed around the concept of diosa, which is in Spanish sort of goddess, the goddess within. And we had a really great community conversation about at the end of the exhibit, where I heard a lot of different definitions of what that word meant, and sort of like tying it back to my self love journey, the piece that I created just kind of like reminded me how much growth happens throughout time, and that it all doesn't always come at once. And our evolution into becoming the best version of ourselves is this sort of journey. Uh, and you only know what you know at those points in your journey. And I think grace comes in when we start to become really hard on ourselves, that I myself included didn't see the signs or didn't try hard enough to get this sort of thing, or am I working hard enough for my clients, or everything that we sort of like project out into the world can be really easily tied to our self-worth. And I think it's really important to sort of decompartmentalize and detach self-worth from a lot of the things that we produce, especially as creative people. And one of the things that I've been sort of like learning in my journey is that sometimes journeys require side quests. And sometimes you're not quite sure what the side quest looks like. And sometimes you are in the middle of it and you're like, holy fuck, this is a side quest. That's okay. I like collecting treasures. And you stock up, and then you continue about your journey, and there's nothing wrong with a side quest. And so I want to try to like reframe detours or distractions or life lessons as it's all part of the same thing. It's all leading you to the next place. It's just never going to be a straight line. It's going to be very curvy and windy, and sometimes like a Mario Kart thing. You're just going to kind of be going in circles and circles until it spits you out to like Rainbow Road, which is like, to me, more fun than like just going on a straight track. But one of the things that I have continued to kind of like opened myself up to being okay with those side quests is that it gives me an opportunity to again check in with myself. And the word grace, because again, I like defining things, I like looking things up, and oh my gosh, there's so many definitions to the word grace, but the one that like stood out to me the most is to do honor or credit to someone or something by one's presence. And I think oftentimes we refer that as like externally to somebody else, like grace towards them, or like, like my grace. Like it's just sort of like an honorable thing. But then I was thinking, like, what if that was a mirror back to me, back to self, like honoring yourself and giving yourself credit? Those two things, very solar plexus driven, very yellow. Shout out to Coldplay. No, I think oftentimes in our self love journeys, we forget to give ourselves credit for how far we've actually come. And when people come back into our lives, sometimes it can be sort of like, oh my God, like I thought I like learned this lesson, or why am I repeating this cycle? And then it's not so much to like shove it in your face. It's more to like show you how much you have actually grown since the last time that person came into your life, or how much different you are based on what that person represented of like a repeated cycle that you kept going in, and how you handled it differently this time around. It's not ever so much about lack, more so than it is about look at how far you've come. Look at how much more you want to like go forward into a new beginning. And really kind of that third part of like one's presence. How am I being present right now and honoring myself right now? Do I need to walk away from this situation? Do I need to respond? Do I want to respond? I think the way that we decide to handle the same situation in different ways is action in self love journeys. And there's no right or wrong because I feel like that's like really hard ingrained programming that we have of like, what's the right thing to do? What's the wrong thing to do? What's the best thing to do? And for me, I'm learning to kind of like sit more with my own presence of like, how can I advocate for my feelings, for myself, for my needs right now, especially as somebody that often looks at other people's feelings first before my own. I think I mentioned this in one of the earlier episodes of like a exercise that my therapist had me do of like write down all the voices in my head and like assign characters to them to see what were the blockages basically that were preventing me from hearing my own voice and what I wanted. And a lot of it, 5 pages of it, was not my voice. And then when my voice started to come out, I think if I redid that exercise now, which would be like 4 years later, I think my voice would be more prominent. And I think that kind of goes to show that grace is a journey through time as you continue to grow and evolve, and having grace for yourself throughout each side quest that you might venture into bravely out of love and not fear, is something that deserves credit for anything that you're sort of like embarking on yourself. And for me, I think, especially with my word being receive this year, I have learned a lot of different definitions of what receive could mean, most of them surprisingly so. I think in episode 1, we talked about how when we put a word to the year, it often sort of teaches us throughout the year. And now that we're kind of like halfway through the year, I have learned a lot. The word has taught me a lot, but not in the ways that I expected, which is exactly what the exercise is intended to do. And I think um, I'll put a link to this book as well in the description. But I read one of Deepak Chopra's earlier books called The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success. And in one of those, he kind of describes the word receive is actually giving. And at the beginning of this sort of like venture, I thought, oh, I'm giving too much. And I have learned that it's not a bad thing to give. It's great to have boundaries around how much you give and who you give to. But I think when you're somebody that just is very bright and loves to make others feel so loved, um, when you don't feel loved, it's okay to not give, but not to stop giving. Redirect that towards other energies. I think, again, with solar plexus chakra themes, rejection is a really big cause for closing the heart and the root of trust. And it could be in coworkers that work partnerships, it could be with friendships, it could be with family, which is a really big video game boss that you might be a little frustrated that you didn't quite defeat the first time around. It might be with relationships, romantic, platonic, neighbors, any type of like relationship or opportunity that is sort of tied to your self worth through past programming, through societal definitions, through things that you are just like programmed to continue to like believe or. And I think that one of the things that Receive is like teaching me is that it's okay to continue to give in a blanketed statement and not feel like one side quest or one manuscript rejection or one art show rejection or any creative rejection that you might face means I'm going to like close up shop and never give again. Because I think in order to receive, that line of giving needs to be in a healthy way alive. And I think over the past like month or so, I have healed a lot of really, really past trauma around giving and showing uh, love and care to people. And I think in the past, it's been so easy for me to just close it up completely. Like the well is like done. And that creates a block in the chakra river dam avatar last airbender example. And so I think having grace for continuing to figure out the journey that you're on uh, is a key to loving yourself more, because the journey is about you. I say that every time, but I feel like it needs a reminder because I need a reminder of it as well. Um, and you get to define what that looks like for you. You get to set the boundaries that you need to make sure that your needs are being met. And the way that we choose to express that uh, healing can be through words and through art. And there are certain things that don't always have to be for profit or for XYZ. They can just exist like you can. And you are enough in that context. And so someone that I admire, who's very creative and really embraces the healing that has to be done in order to create beautiful art that we can all relate to, um, is someone who's really, really brave. And someone once told me they stopped listening to my podcast because it was too personal for them. Uh, and I think that it's one thing to be authentic and share experiences that help you feel less alone. And it's one thing to air out your laundry. And let me tell you, I don't do that. That's the laundry, I could tell. But that's inner circle knowledge. And that's why it's important to have distinguished sort of circles of relationship. But you'll still be able to help people through. Hi, Jude. Jude has entered the chat. Anything to add, Jude? No, he just kissed it. Good boy. I think showing authenticity and using art to show how to unravel the things that we're processing can help provide different tools and blueprints for people that feel like they don't quite know how to start healing so that they can love themselves and see themselves the way that they've wanted others to see themselves. And so I'm really excited to chat with the word warmth smith, Sofía Aguilar, who we met through writing on a publication online called Latina Media Co. Shout out to Latina Media Co. And really connected with her work early on. And she is just someone that continues to share her art in different forms and provide seats at tables to have others also feel seen and heard and their words shared. And we even get a little poem that was exactly what I needed to hear in our interview. So I'm really excited for you to hear our conversation. And hopefully it gives you an opportunity and to give yourself grace to start unraveling the things that you feel might still be locked up or hurt from the past. So get a box of grace. It's probably stored up inside. It's free. You don't have to buy it. And allow yourself to open yourself up to another side quest on the journey. Hi, Sophia. It's so good to see you.
You too. How have you been?
I've been really good. How have you been?
I've been good, thank you.
What's something that's been bringing you joy right now?
Oh my gosh. I feel like it's so silly. I've been reading all of did you grow up with like American Girls and
Oh
stuff
my
like
God,
that?
yes. Oh my. Yes.
So, do you remember the books that they would like publish, the like Smart Girl's Guide to like, your
Yes.
body and stuff
Yeah,
like
keeping
that?
and caring of you was like my
Yeah.
Bible.
So, I've been rereading all of them and it's been so fun.
Oh my gosh, what a great inner child sort of like healing moment.
Hmm.
I even had like the board game of the American Girls.
Me
Did you have?
too.
Oh my God, you're the
Yes.
first person I have met that also had it. I think it's
Yeah.
still in my parents' like attic somewhere, and I was like, do not
Yeah.
sell that.
The funny part is like I got it for like a birthday or something, but like I never had friends over. And
Hmm.
also like my cousins were always doing something else. So like I would just play the game by
Oh
myself.
my God, me too. Because my mom kind of got tired of playing it. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just, I think the illustrations really drew me in too. Just like
Yeah.
that whole world was a really big chapter of my life. And now I want to go back and reread those books too, because I feel like I might tap into somebody that was looking for answers.
Yeah, literally.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Well,
Yeah.
in that same sort of like, have you discovered anything about yourself or run into a past version of yourself rereading those books?
So the thing is I definitely want to write something about this experience because like you
Hmm.
said, like I think there's so much there, just like the childhood nostalgia of it and like
Hmm.
kind of like replicating the feeling of when I was, like 8 or 9 and reading these books it's funny like how much I remember too because like
Hmm.
they updated some of them, but most of the books are still like the 2005 version of whatever the
Hmm.
book it was. And I'm like, oh my God, I remember seeing this illustration. Oh my God, I remember
Hmm.
like the way that they worded like, this piece of advice or like I remember if not the answers to a quiz, I remember the questions of the quizzes they would
Hmm.
have like in the book. And so it's been such like it's been such like an eye-opening experience to kind of, like you said, like kind of give back to my inner child.
Hmm.
And to be honest, like I came into it not thinking much of it. Like I was just like, this seems like a silly project, and I'm just gonna do it. But like
Hmm.
as I've been reading them, it's been really interesting. Like one, like how much I'm actually learning. Like I read the book about like fashion and finding your style, and like I actually did learn a lot about like color matching and color
Hmm.
coordinating and how like what's important is like, feeling good in your clothes and how they make you
Hmm.
feel. Like they actually had and it's not to say that, advice books for young girls isn't valuable, but like I
Hmm.
really it was strange as an adult being able to walk away with these
Hmm.
valuable lessons. And I think that was just really cool because I wasn't expecting that at all. Like I really was like, oh, I probably know everything they're gonna say to me anyways, right? Because I'm an adult. But um, but it was cool. And like there's a cooking one that I learned a lot from
Hmm.
too, like about meal planning and like how to like make food that you actually enjoy and that it's not all about like I loved like the messaging of like it's not about diet, it's not about the way your body looks,
Hmm.
it's how you feel
Hmm.
in that body. And it was just like, oh my God, like, like there's just it was just so cool reading that stuff. And I'm still like making my way through because they have like a
Mm-hmm.
surprising amount of books, like more than I
Mm-hmm.
thought. And I think they have even like they've expanded like over the years, like way past the time that I stopped reading them. Um, but yeah, it's just been so nice. Like it's like stepping into a bubble bath. Like it's just very
Oh,
cozy reading and just like
yeah.
very soft and very like feel good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of times one of the things I used to do, kind of like tapping into that, I would like take myself on a library date
hmm
and allow whoever was like needing a little bit more TLC,
Mm,
like to pick a book specifically that she would like to read.
yeah.
And that kind of helped me. Sometimes I'll do that exercise when I'm in a reading slump. Because I'm trying to figure out who's bored with the adult books that I'm reading, that it makes it feel like it's mandatory school reading for whatever
Yeah.
reason. And like, I just can see her like completely light up in the middle grade section. And
Oh,
I remember love every time we went to like the book fair, that was like one of my must books because I collected them as well. So
yes.
that's such a cool, because like, that's such a cool memory.
Yeah.
What did you love about yourself when you were that age?
Oh my God. Oh, such a good question. I feel like I think one of the things was just I loved being able to just like have fun and like
Mm,
chill out because like lately I feel like and I think most adults deal with this, but like the constant like stress of life is
mm-hmm,
overwhelming. You know, you have
mm-hmm,
all these different like your personal life, the state of the world, like you have at least for me, like I have all this dread. And I
mm-hmm,
miss when I was little when I didn't know any of that. And I was just
mm-hmm,
like in this state of like being able to like play without guilt or have fun without guilt
mm.
or you know like there was just like this freedom about myself that I really loved and sometimes I get her back like
Yeah,
on Sunday my partner and I went to Legoland and it was just like it was
that looked like
amazing it
so
was
much fun.
everything it was everything. And like I think we do have to take those moments. Like it
Mm-hmm,
maybe if it's not a full day at Disneyland, but maybe it's like an hour when you get to sit down with
mm-hmm,
your American Girl book and you just like get
mm-hmm,
to like, you know, like kind of go back to the time a little bit. Or Magic Tree
mm-hmm,
House was a big thing for
mm-hmm.
me. Or
Same.
oh my God, there were so many good books when I was little. Just like I think it really does it keeps me grounded in a way because I feel like sometimes I get too caught up in my current life and I
Mm-hmm,
don't think about how I used to be or like the past as much as I want to. So it's like
mm-hmm,
I think those kinds of like childhood items or
mm-hmm,
you know, if you will, like I think there really are a time capsule and I think that is
mm-hmm.
really cool.
Yeah, something that you said really struck with me, play without guilt.
hmm
Because I think that concept, even as adults, and we're both creative people, we're both writers, and we both sort
hmm
of like use creativity to heal, but also play. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think I've been struggling recently on finding that balance of
Yeah.
like, what is productive play and what is just
hmm
creative play, and what do I want to
Yeah.
create without capitalism
hmm
interfering? And so that's such an interesting way to put it because I think I feel guilty when I play, when I attach those adult-like concepts to
hmm
play. As soon as
Yeah.
you said that, I was like putting together the pieces. What sort of brings guilt to your play?
I think it's the feeling like that I'm not being productive or I'm not, you know, capitalism, like I'm not
Yeah.
being a valuable asset to society.
Hmm.
When
Hmm.
in reality, like it's doesn't have to be that way. Like we
Hmm.
can't just be human. We can just relax. We can, you know, it's 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 like it's a good thing not to be constantly creating and giving
Mm.
output all the time.
Hmm.
And so I think like the guilt comes into play when I'm not doing that and I'm working more on like actually, you know, it's okay for me to watch Netflix and like have a cup of tea or whatever and like do
Hmm.
nothing. I'm not looking at my emails. I'm not, you know, I'm not watching the show because I want to write an essay about
Yes,
it,
right
which
about.
will give me money,
Yeah.
right? Which will give me money, which
Yeah,
I will
yeah,
get paid for, which
exactly.
will allow me to do X, Y, and Z. And so it's
Yeah.
like like I really have to force myself to just like turn my brain off for like two
Hmm.
seconds.
Yeah, because one of the things I really admire about you is all of your creative passions and how much
Hmm.
you, at least how it looks like for me,
Hmm.
is your confidence in it, very Leo energy of just kind of trailblazing and being like, I really love doing this. I'm going to share it with the world. And I think, I don't know if that comes, how much of that point comes behind the scenes where you actually struggle to share those passions with the world versus just kind of doing it.
I think, honestly, there was a point in my life where I really hated to post on social media because there was always a small voice saying no one is
Mhm.
going to give a shit about this and you're just wasting your time and like,
Very familiar with
like
that voice. Yeah. Heard it this
and
morning.
oh man, it's constant, right? Like, but the thing is, like, I think, and I don't know how I did it, but there just kind of came a point where I was just like, fuck it. Like, if no one cares,
Hmm.
it doesn't matter because and going along with that, I think I was also really hung up on like really stupid things like like
Hmm.
counts or view counts or like how many
Hmm.
times has this been shared to other people's stories. And like I still check those things, but they don't mean
Hmm.
as much to me anymore. Like they don't
Hmm.
I don't take it personally. Like my trip to Legoland didn't get a lot of likes or whatever compared to other
Hmm.
posts that I've done, but it also does not matter. And like,
Hmm.
like social media doesn't really exist if we think about it. Like it only exists in this digital world, and as soon as I turn it off, it no longer exists to me. So
Hmm.
why am I taking everything on that happens in this digital space so personally? You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So I really don't care that much about it anymore. And again, I don't know how I came to that point, but it's just
Hmm.
like I think it's just like the knowing in myself that I'm doing cool things and that people like
Hmm.
me for some reason and that,
Hmm.
like it still just really amazes me like how much people do do see me.
Hmm.
Because I think a lot of the times we get caught in our own little bubbles and like we're just doing our thing and we don't think about how other people think of us. And then I have these moments where like people will like text me or DM me and being like, I love seeing all the things you're doing. You're such an
Hmm.
inspiration to me. And they don't have to say those things, but like it's really nice to hear it because it's like, oh, I was just, like I thought nobody else could see me, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
so I feel like that has also helped like just the validation from other people without having to ask for it too.
Hmm. I think that's really hard too, because sometimes I feel like um creative people that are so uh confident in like posting their creativity, sometimes I feel like people forget that we also need that validation.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
just because it look optics looks like we have our shit together doesn't mean that it would feel really nice to hear
Hmm.
that we have our shit together
Yeah, right?
from someone else because it's such a constant mind battle in terms of like, am I doing enough? Should I care? Should I like there's just I think sometimes there's so many voices that we hide behind the scenes, myself included, of like,
Hmm.
how long did it take me to overcome that anxiety about allowing myself to be seen, which is ironic because it's something I talk about in therapy a lot of like
Mm.
trauma around like wanting to be seen. And
Mm.
so I think sometimes it's like, I've been having conversations with a lot of my friends about dimming your light versus just showing up as bright as
Hmm.
possible and not
Yeah.
letting certain perceptions or people that you feel like, oh, I have to like be a little bit more quiet to
Yeah.
not take up as much space. And sometimes it affects the art that I
Hmm.
create because
Yeah,
of that.
absolutely. How do you deal with that? Like what it?
Yeah, I mean, great question. I think it comes in waves. I think part of my creative process of like when I finally get to a point where I like detach the guilt from play and
Hmm.
something that I've been doing to like reclaim my own social media accounts so
Hmm.
I don't feel as performative
Hmm.
is I've tried to kind of use it as like an I'm curating a piece of art.
Mm.
And so I've been doing these like uh photo dumps that I'm like sort of curating and they all have meaning behind it. Nothing that I post doesn't
Right.
And so there's certain like Easter eggs or like things that I am curating something, but it's for myself. So
Hmm.
I've been reclaiming my Instagram page as my own art gallery.
Wow.
And this is my gallery, and this is what I'm showing to the world. And if you want to come to my gallery, great. If you don't want to come to my gallery, there are so many other galleries to like check out. But
Hmm.
I'm reminding myself that I'm the curator and the creator of my art versus like I think a lot of times in different avenues, like even when you write for certain publications or trying to get published, you sort of like get into that perception of what people want from your
Mm.
art versus like
Hmm.
what I want to share. And that's really helped me a lot of like seeing it as a art gallery for myself to play.
I love that. I think that's so cute, especially because I feel like for me, like photo dumps are like a chore sometimes because it's like
Mm, they're so
because
fun for me
well
because
the
I
thing is
made
that
put meaning behind. Yeah, yeah.
well the thing is like I think they are fun, but at the same time it's like it takes me a while to find like the perfect pictures because like
Mm,
I'm a perfectionist and like
mm.
if every picture isn't like if it somehow uploads the photos in the wrong order, delete. I have to start over.
Oh yeah. I mean, I do that too. I also have perfectionism instilled in me as well.
Right? But I do get the fun of it. I think it's just like
Mm,
um I think I do find myself spending more time on photo dumps than any other posts that any
that's
other kind
true.
of post that I do. Um it's not to say that I find it stressful. I do think it's just like the order of things has to be perfect and
Hmm, hmm,
like every photo has to be aesthetic in some way and it has to be
hmm,
cute and like I remember there would be times when I'd be on the phone with my partner and I would be like
hmm.
looking through people's like photo dumps and I'd be like, oh, why can't I be like cool and mysterious like this person? Like they have like the perfect photo dumps, like nothing about their like photo dumps makes sense because like they're all like you said, like they all have hidden meanings in them and yet like
Yeah.
they're so cool and edgy and like why can't I be like
Mm-hmm.
that? And like he'd be like, well, you know, because you're not them and you're your own
Hmm.
person and like if you haven't noticed, he's the level-headed one in the
Yeah.
relationship. I'm the
I
one who's
love that.
like, you know, I'm the one who like dwells on things.
Hmm. But it's a good balance. I feel like that is the sign of a relationship where you can help each other grow in a healthy way for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I guess in the same vein of like photo dumps, you I feel like one of the things I also admire about you is sort of like how you've not just with your art, but like the way that you approach your career.
Mm.
Um, what do you love about the life that you've created for yourself?
Yeah, I think I one thing I really love is that I feel both intentionally and unintentionally, every aspect of my life fits together in some way. Like they're all
Mhm.
doing similar things, but in different ways. So like what I mean by that is
Mm.
like, so for example, I just got a job at a library and
Yeah.
like at first like I was like, what am I doing here? Like, yeah, I'm going to library school and everything.
Hmm.
But how does it fit into the rest of my life? It doesn't really. And then I kind of thought about it and I was like, well, this is about storytelling. This is
Hmm.
about representation and diversity because people are always looking for new things in the library. Like just the other week, somebody was like, do you have any books in Arabic? And I was like,
Mm.
that's a great question. We should look into that. I would love to
Hmm.
have more languages in this collection. And so like I think like so that part of it is like, you know, very much about access and about equity and
Mm.
all of those things I'm really passionate about. And then you have like my creative writing, which again is about obviously about storytelling, about
Hmm.
diversity, about visibility, about you know, about community too. And so,
Hmm.
and then you have maybe like one more the freelance version of my life where again I'm talking about TV shows that I like because, you know, they have a diverse representation or
Hmm.
they give a voice to an underserved community in some way, or because, you know, like I think I really focus on those aspects of entertainment and media when I'm writing about that stuff, or, you
Hmm.
know, even then, like I'm writing about like books and stuff like that, and like making these book lists, like uplifting books that would otherwise not be supported or celebrated by the mainstream publishing industry. And
Mhm.
so like the thing is like they're all sort of different in their own ways. And yet when I look at it all together, I'm like, oh my God, like I really did like build a life where like I can pursue all of these
Mhm.
passions I have for representation and
Mhm.
visibility. Like they're all doing the same thing. And I
Mhm.
think that's really cool. It's just in different aspects and different sectors of
Mhm.
my life. And I think that's the thing I love. Like, and sometimes it can get overwhelming. Like I won't
Mhm.
lie. I just had like a whole like hour-long session with my therapist about
Mhm.
how, I sometimes take on too much. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah. Like I find myself having a really hard time saying no because, well, it fits
Mhm.
into the vision of my life. Well, it
Mm.
fits, it makes
Mhm.
sense for me to do it. Um, on the other hand, though, my schedule's insane.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
having a really hard time managing all these different aspects of my life. So it's like it's a double-edged sword for sure.
Mhm.
I would find it really hard to give any of it up because it brings me so much joy.
Mhm.
Um, like all of it. And somebody even said that to me the other day. She was um, like it is amazing that every aspect of your life does align with each other because not everyone
Mhm.
has that. Like a lot of
Mhm.
the people, their day job has nothing to do with their creative life. They're two
Yeah.
separate things. And for you, it's like she was like, it's so beautiful how they all
Mhm.
intertwine.
It really is. You like created your own symphony for yourself.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I really
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
And even when you were describing like, oh, I want to make sure we have more books in different languages for this collection, I immediately thought, oh, you're also a curator. Like what you're doing as a librarian is like making sure that there are pieces of art uh, for everyone to feel seen, which I think is really beautiful.
Mhm.
And one of the things we kind of first start when we were talking about uh, this conversation was sort of like things to work on and like finding grace
Mhm.
in our self-love journey. Is there something that you've been working on right now to kind of help yourself love yourself more?
Yeah, I think, well, my homework for this week from my
Mm-hmm.
therapist is to be more in tune with how my body feels.
Oh,
Um,
I've had that
like,
assignment.
yeah. Like just doing, I think it'll help me because so often I
Mm-hmm.
think I remove myself from my physical body in order to cope with my stress
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the response I have to stress is physical. And so the only way I can like possibly
Mm-hmm.
function is by ignoring it. And I think it'll be good for me to actually like acknowledge it. And then from there, okay, how do I manage it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be something that's really important to me. Like, because like I said, like I feel like so often I'm just trying to get through the next day. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
just trying to fill up my day with as much productivity as I can, like because I have so much to do. I have so much on my plate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do want to, like I'm trying to be kinder to myself by taking more breaks for sure,
Mm-hmm.
drinking more water for sure, not so much
Mm-hmm.
like I just got into matcha lattes and I'm trying to
Love,
like
love it.
right? They're so good, but at the same time, I need to drink more water too to like make up
Mm-hmm.
for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to take more walks with my dog because,
Mm-hmm.
he's lovely and I love him and he's
Mm-hmm.
so beautiful.
He
And
really is.
right, like just the other day, yesterday my dad was walking him and he was like, yeah, a whole family in an SUV rolled down their windows and told me how beautiful he was. Like all these kids, yeah, the parents, like so funny. He can stop traffic, I'm telling you. Um, but yeah, I think that's how I'm trying, other ways I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
um to do that is just to really like take my time and not feel like I have to rush anything. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I miss a deadline, like missing deadlines used to be like the worst thing that could ever happen to a person to me.
Yeah.
And now it's like because it's like it's not that I want to miss deadlines, but now I feel like if I do, people will be more understanding than I'm expecting. You know what I mean? And so
Mm-hmm.
I think like if I like I think in that way, like I think the other another way I've been taking care of myself is asking for help,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
that's really also a really hard thing for me to do
Really
to
hard for me
admit
to
that
do that too.
I need help.
Yeah.
But like, if I'm not asking for help, no one's gonna know what I need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
I can't. it's not other people's responsibility to just assume what I need and do it.
Hmm.
So I think that's also been really helpful and important.
Yeah, I feel that too. I feel like I've been trying to find better ways to ask for help that
Hmm.
make me feel like I'm still um showing up for other people. Because I
Hmm.
think one of the misconceptions of help that I've been trying to deconstruct in therapy is like that I am not enough or
Hmm.
that I am asking too much of somebody when
Yeah.
really it's prioritizing my needs first and my feelings
Hmm.
first, which
Hmm.
as a chronic people pleaser is always kind of like second nature.
Oh my God,
So
people pleasers in the building. Where
in
you
the
at?
building. Louder for those in the back. No. Um, and so like rewiring that has been like an
Yeah.
interesting process for me, but I think we both have talked about this before and how we sort of use writing to kind of help us
Hmm.
cope and heal. And I would love to, if you could share a poem
Oh,
with us, if you have
yeah,
something.
for sure. Let me pull something up. I mean, is there anything that in particular that you want to hear? Like any
I
sort of
would
thing?
use this as an opportunity to go with your homework and feel what your body is telling you
See what my body's
intuitively.
feeling.
What do you feel?
Um, okay, you know what? Actually, that's kind of perfect because the first poem I chose has a lot to do with the body, so I'm gonna read that one.
Perfect.
Okay. So this is an old poem from like 2021. So um yeah, that's the only introduction I'll do of it. Okay. So the brown nippled girls and the daughters of immigrant fathers. My father tried to teach me to love. In Mexico, cooking a meal is the same as offering yourself. The kitchen, a woman's first home, an apron tied into a knot at the neck and then at the waist, as though her second skin. But I'm not the kind of woman who always does what she's told. Don't pick your skin, don't talk that way, don't open your legs like a man at the table. My hands have never known how to carry my people in the palms or lay my heart beside the food or serve my father's plate and push in his chair before my own. To boil guavas after plucking them from their tree or to melt chocolate and chile into mole into chicken bone and learn to do without its sweetness. Instead, I am the daughter who chooses both halves of herself, who is made of two tongues but burns brown the arroz, and brushes slight against the stove and finds my skin weeks later still peeling from a past heat. Neither my food nor my mouth has ever understood how to speak for me. I never learned how to love my body the way white girls did, how to describe it in words that weren't already taken, caramel and cinnamon, coffee and the kind of sugar my father has never believed in, as though I am meant to be eaten, swallowed, and consumed. I was never told that my brown nipples were as beautiful as pink, and my belly filled with food could round itself that way, and my waves didn't have to be the victims of heat. Never understood that my body was mine, that men couldn't shame me, couldn't see me and crave me, couldn't touch me unless I said yes, couldn't abuse me and blame me, didn't own me even if we shared the same blood. But so much of my father is myself. So much first belonged to him that it's hard to remember whose body this really is. My eyebrows always wild, overgrown. My locks of hair so thick that just a few loose strands stopped a shower from disappearing into the drain. My face that has always had its own mind and never learned how to lie. My fear of darkness, barren places and hollows in the chest, of $1 too little, of inhabiting the earth without wearing shoes, of lying down and feeling the ribs of the mattress through our bellies on the bed. What's mine has always been ours. He taught me to ache, to take desire as my birthright, to never be full or become satisfied, run away from the world without leaving my touch or both my names behind, braided into blades of grass, tattooed in the earth, emptiness. His greatest fear passed down to me like inheritance.
Let's do a little snap from the microphone. And That was so beautiful, Sophia. I
Mhm.
There were so many thoughts going through my head as you were reading that, but I think at the beginning, a lot of conversations I've been having too is sort of like around the concept of Marianismo, which is like the
Mm,
opposite of machismo in our
yeah.
culture, and detangling, decentering men
Hmm.
from narratives that I are so like deep down generationally.
Yeah.
Um, that finding, I think, ways to cope with that, and almost like the entire poem, I feel like, is an unraveling of past traumas and programming that a lot of us sort of like haven't felt, I myself included, sometimes brave enough to like untangle.
Oh.
So I want to thank you for sharing those words because I think it just is confirmation of the work that I have been doing and the work that maybe some of our listeners right now may feel called to kind of tap into and unravel.
Mm.
You said you wrote that a few years ago and it feels like so fresh. Do you feel that way about it as well?
Yeah, especially because I haven't looked at it in a while. So I
Mhm.
forgot a lot of. Hi, my dog just came
Nah,
over
so is
and
mine.
sniffed
Mine's
me.
right here.
Hi, he distracted me. Yeah, I think there are a lot of things that I forgot that were in the poem. Like I didn't remember the line about the guavas, and yeah, I remember
Hmm.
that line being so important to me. Like I love fruit. I love
Hmm.
in like integrating images of like fruit and like just food in general. I think food is so beautiful to write about, because especially
Hmm.
if it's like cultural, because there's so much that went into it. There's so much love that goes into a piece of food, you know?
Yeah. Hello.
Just love. Um He's so
Surprise guest.
surprise guest. No, but I do remember like I remember the feeling I had when I wrote it for sure. Like this feeling of like I don't know if you feel the same way, but sometimes there are poems that I write and it feels like a release, or
Yes.
like I hate the word, but like a purging of something, just like
Mhm.
like a letting go.
Yeah.
And that poem was a letting go to me, like just a I like the word that you said, unraveling, because I feel like that's what poems often do, is like they undo all these knots,
Hmm.
right, in whatever thing that they're exploring, and then by the end, it's not that they've reknotted, but you look at things in a different way.
Hmm.
And I think there was this other phrase that I heard one of my friends say of like it's a becoming and an unbecoming, and like
Hmm.
I think I tried to capture that in all the poems I do, of like, well, let's interrogate this more. Let's pull
Hmm.
this apart. Let's see
Hmm.
what's happening. And I think that's always really fun.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful and it's a really it can be a difficult process because you're constantly just doing shadow work. Like you're constantly
Hmm.
putting a mirror in front of yourself to see
Yeah.
what can I heal and what can I extract. But I want to kind of give you a poem back because
Yeah.
I found this beautiful tarot poetry book
Yeah. That looks
that I thought was like
beautiful.
perfect for you. I was
Yeah.
like, which
Thank
card
you.
should I was like, no, we're gonna do the book for her. So
Okay.
let's see what the poetry gods and goddesses of the world and the words have to tell you.
Okay.
Um, so I flipped to the Three of Wands, and wands are usually just of creativity and inspiration and passion. And so
Mm.
the poem reads, by fantasizing possibilities, you paint your future with the brush of luck. You create an existence by learning through life, by expanding your horizons. The entire universe, mind, body, soul,
Mm.
is with you on this one.
Wow, that was so beautiful. I love that. And I love the way you read it too. Like your voice is so calming and soothing, and it perfectly matched the energy of that poem. That was beautiful.
Um, I think it's sort of like letting you know that you're on the right path. But
Hmm.
in terms of like imbalance between mind, body, and soul, I struggle with I got the mind, I got the soul. It's the body that's like, what are we do?
Yeah.
Very much like a ratatouille.
Yeah.
Like, where are we going? Okay. And so I've also been working on sort of like being more in tune and having that third one that seems so grounded, but such a hard concept and tying to your poem too of like
Hmm.
how many knots our bodies have that we can't quite connect all three. But
Yeah.
I think you're on the right path of bridging that connection together for yourself.
Yeah. I love that.
Any last sort of lovely life advice as a farewell?
Oh, advice. I feel like I want to take this for myself of as well. Hi. Hi, my beautiful baby.
So cute.
Uh, I want me and others to play more,
Hmm.
and with without guilt preferably, but I think
Hmm.
just experimenting with what it feels like to you to play. Hi,
Hmm.
can I, my
Like right
friend.
now, that's play.
Mm, are you playing?
Love, love is a form of play.
That's the other thing about having a little animal in the home is like he, like a child, also has no understanding of
Hmm.
of like I do think he does. I am a full proponent of the idea that animals just like us can feel guilt and
Hmm.
shame and
Agreed.
joy and sadness. And so I think he is the kind of dog that will definitely has no concept of guilt while he's playing. He just wants to
Hmm.
like explore the world and have a good
Hmm.
time. And I think he's kind of bringing me back to that because I had
Hmm.
that as a kid too, And so like I think he's been really a good outlet for that of like, hey, you need to like he's telling me like, hey, you need to chill out, you need to go
Yeah.
outside, you need to take some sun.
Hmm. Hmm.
We have a lot to learn from these little guys.
Oh yeah, Jude and I always joke, and well, it's not joke, it's truth. Jude is the longest, healthiest relationship I've ever had, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've been together for 10 years,
Oh,
and he has
sweet.
taught me so much about love and the world and taking breaks and when to go to bed.
No, that's so real. The going to bed thing is so real.
But I think animals are little alebrijes, at least, I believe. Hello. He's so cute.
He's so pretty.
Well, thank you so much for sharing such beautiful, healing words with us. And I myself am gonna like maybe write some poetry after this. You're always so
Mm.
inspiring in terms of like, what else do I need to purge and unravel to
Mhm.
create? Because I think that's one of the important things about words is how we use them to like purge, but then alchemize and create something with them.
Right.
And that's sort of like our superpower that I want to encourage other people to not be afraid of their trauma and their healing because it ultimately creates something beautiful.
I think, yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think also it helps to remove the idea of an audience for me. Like, so I know
Hmm.
for some people it works, like having a little bit of pressure of someone on your shoulder does get the work done. But I think for me, like, I like the idea of just like maybe it's okay that I'm the only audience that's here to
Hmm.
witness it.
Hmm.
Because then it takes the pressure off. And again, that like it removes the feeling of guilt, like you're not doing it right or it's not coming out
Hmm.
the way you want to. No one else is going to read this, like unless you
Hmm.
want them to. So I
Hmm.
think being able to remove for yourself that pressure is also going to help a lot with the feeling of play. Like you're just
Hmm.
like playing around with like, how this poem was gonna like I think also the other part is like trusting the poem to say what it needs to say and go where it needs to go. Because
Hmm.
sometimes I think, I don't know if you experience this too, but sometimes I feel like I start a poem knowing exactly what I want to do with it. And then it's like, no, I think we're gonna go in this other direction. And then I just have to kind of follow it.
Oh yeah, I do that with all my writing. Every time I think I have an angle or something or a character. But
Yeah.
I think that's part of play is to
Hmm.
follow it and see where
Yeah,
it leads you.
exactly. Yeah.
I hope that conversation was exactly what you needed. I I know it was for me. I feel like every time I talk to Sofia or I see one of her poems out in the world, it's kind of like she said, kind of like a nice warm bath. It just feels like home. And a lot of sort of like what we've been talking about in giving grace and playing without guilt and finding sort of those like pockets of moments that make warmth feel safe. And the letter that I wanted to share with you all today is called Dear Lovely, Don't Be So Hard on Yourself, because I think with grace, um, just comes with like a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves when it comes to finding a lovely life, when it comes to prioritizing ourselves and our self love journey, when it comes to trying to be successful in our lives and our careers. And so I think these words might help. I think I read this. This is going to be another live reaction session because I read it briefly. I was debating on two different letters, and let's see what the message is for me as well. Dear Lovely, don't be so hard on yourself. There's no such thing as perfection. Mistakes don't mean the end. They are a chance for you to pause and become better. If you become obsessed with perfection, you'll miss out on the nuggets of wisdom along the way. Sometimes things won't work out the way you planned. You are doing the best that you can. No one is blaming you because no one really cares that much. Whatever you are weighing down so heavy, let it go. Tomorrow is a new day. You get to start again. There's a time for everything. Right now might not be your moment, but that doesn't mean that the season you're in right now is going to be forever. I roll. That was for myself. Sorry. Not sorry. Have a little faith. Find joy in the small things. Work on your goals. Work on yourself. Embrace the season and things will start to change. Mm. Get back and get back up and try again. And again if you have to. This isn't a test. This isn't a race. This is a journey. It's one foot in front of the other. It's one step at a time. We're going at your pace, love, not the world's, not your coworkers, not your sisters, not your neighbors, yours. And I'll be cheering for you every step of the way. Love, Monica. And that's the episode. I hope you're inspired to love yourself a little more than you did yesterday, and you're on your way to finding a lovely life you love. If you want to read more about my self love journey, head over to findalovelylife.com. Subscribe, rate, and share this podcast if you feel called to. Remember that your self love journey can start or restart at any point. There are no rules. Stay connected with us on social at Find a Lovely Life, or if you want to see more of Monica Life, you can find me at Lovely Monica, and that's spelled LOVELEEMONICAA. I'll say goodbye for now. Thanks for listening. Until next time.